My name is Christy Busby, and you are about to listen to the next episode of my podcast called F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. So come on in, join me. We're going to talk about it all, from atheism to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Get ready, and welcome to your F.A.T.E. Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of F.A.T.E. How's everybody doing today? On today's show, I am bringing you Dr. Christopher Macklin. He is a UFO paranormal expert. He's a medical intuitive. He's a spiritual teacher, an energy healer, and he is the founder of the Global Enlightenment Project. I'm very excited to hear his story. Dr. Christopher Macklin, welcome to your F.A.T.E, my friend. How you doing today?
Christy, thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be here, bless your heart. Yeah, I'm doing great, actually. I'm doing absolutely wonderful.
I have to tell you, I'm super excited to have you on the show because you do have so many different, so much knowledge on so many different metaphysical, mystical, aliens. I mean, you really have so much knowledge that I would love to bring to my audience. So I can already tell I'm going to want you back on the show because there's just not going to be enough time to delve into everything that I'd love to talk to you about. So,
Well, I think an hour's good because, you know, people listen for an hour and then they
yes,
can digest it, and then you're better off doing a few shows rather than just like a 2-hour show where people just, oh, well, they'll lose it, forget it, you know, so it's perfect.
I agree. And this is the kind of information that you really want to, you kind of got to chew it in small bits, you know? You don't really want to eat the whole cow, if you know what I mean. You kind of got to kind of got to dance in this, you know, in this arena and you know, bit by bit. But I always like to start at the beginning. I'd love to hear your journey of how you got here. What was your path to all of this UFO, paranormal, spirituality, all of that? How did you get to be where you are today?
I'm not telling it, I'm just joking. So it happened when I was born, actually, but obviously I don't remember a lot of it. But what was interesting, I was born as a Melchizedek being, and we'll explain that later. It's basically born, spliced in, you know, as a starseed person. There's about 1.2% of the planet are starseed people. Some people are spliced in where your mother agreed, yeah, I'll be abducted. We'll get enough DNA of that race in the body so that you can get the soul in. Otherwise, it won't sit in a normal human body. So anyway, so I was born. Day after, I had 8 strokes. I was in hospital for a year. Then I burnt my back so bad at 4. I was in hospital for another year. Meanwhile, I could see a lot of things. And I remember I was in bed, lying there, and I was looking in the corner of the room. What's that? You know, it's a big dinosaur type. Dad, there's a dinosaur in my room. And he comes running in. Where? It's there. Where? Oh, he can't see it, you know. So, yeah, don't worry, it's just a bad dream. Go back to sleep. So I was sleeping, and this thing was looking a bit snarly. And you can tell if it's an entity or something because you can feel that. Even at that age, I felt the negative, like, impact in my chest. I thought, wow. So in the end, I said, get out of my room. It left. Oh, that worked. And so I learned to manage them. It was really crazy. And I also I remember the other day, I battled the Greys trying to abduct me when I was about 5. And I wouldn't let them take us. You know, they try to, because they try and paralyze you. They call it sleep paralysis, but it's not. They paralyze you, take you out of a tractor beam and steal your body parts or whatever they do. And, oh, we're not doing that, you know. And I was actually frantically like, we're not doing it. And I moved and they left, you know. So I battled them for a bit. And then when I was at school, Dad, there's a flying saucer in the sky. I could see them. And where? You know, and I could see that he's down thinking, this guy's nuts, you know, mentally ill. I'm going to have to take him to a psychiatrist. So from then on, I stopped saying anything about it. I just watched and, you know, observed. Went through school, severe dyslexia, could never spell. The sad thing is, you know, on Fridays was spelling tests before you go home. And those who actually spelt the words, the 20 words, could go home. Oh, I was like half an hour to an hour late trying to figure out how to spell the word. Terrible at spelling. So anyway, moving on. So, I did okay at school. I was sponsored for a degree, did a degree, sponsored for a master's, did a master's in flight control systems, and then went into the avionic. Well, actually I started with just computing, and then went into the avionic industry. And I was earning tons of money doing top job. People say, "Oh my God, it must be great designing autopilots and flight control systems." And kind of think, not really, I'm not, it was just a paycheck. And I looked around and said, there's got to be something in this world better than this nonsense. But anyway, I did it 21 years. So in 2007, I think God decided, look, there's an 8x6 here, and everything collapsed. I went bankrupt, marriage collapsed. Now, just going back in, yeah, actually, it's not going back in time. So anyway, so I go bankrupt. I'm living out of a Volkswagen Polo when I'm 6 foot 5. And, I had all my wardrobe in the back and, every week I'd wash my clothes, put them all back in the same place. And, I've got some OCD from that, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I got sponsored. I went to India. I went to all over Europe doing healings and doing things with people. And then I met a lady in Belize, because I was sponsored to go to Belize because someone was doing some building out there and they wanted me to clear the land and everything else. And she said, "Oh, my father lives in Hollister, Missouri, why don't you come and stay with us?" Okay, so I came and stayed with her. And from there, I loved Hollister and I decided, yeah, I would like to be here. But in 2008, I had a reading from this lady. She was about 80 years old. And it was near Liverpool, in England, a place called Birkenhead, a bit rough. So I went to the terraced house, knocked on the door, "Come in." And so she sat there and, "Right, thank you." Writing all these things. "Oh, thank you. Thank you." You know. She said, "Well, you are going to get remarried. Okay. You're going to move to America. Okay. And you're going to work for God and live off donations." And I'm kind of thinking, okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't dismissing it, but that's kind of a lot,
Yeah.
and, even in Belize, I went 21 days without food, I didn't have any money at all, and I learned to manifest in Belize because one day after 21 days, I said, "Okay, dear God, I command I get food right now, and I thank you, God, send you my unconditional love." There was power behind it. Suddenly, within 5 or 10 minutes, the most dodgy person, these like wheelers dealers and looking over their shoulder, he comes up
Yeah.
to me, he's looking around, he goes, "Here's 50 Belize dollars now. Don't tell anyone. They'll think I'm weak, but I know you've got no money for food." So it was really interesting. So, um, from there, I learned to manifest. So anyway, I moved to America in 2010, and I went to the expos. I've been dusted with bioweaponry, believe it or not. I went to the Conscious Life Expo, and I was walking around. I just felt this very light, as though someone sprinkled some water. That's what the heck's that? What is it, guys? I said, "It's a bioweapon. You better get back to your room." Went back to the room. I was really sick. My temperature flew, um, and it actually collected just here in a gland. I've actually got rid of most of it. It used to be stick out really. It was, and I had it tested. It was tubularia, which the CIA used to, bioweapon. It had a binding agent to bind it to the cells, and it had solvent to deliver it through the skin. So that was the last one. And then, anyway, so we opened the ministry, go around America and go around all over the place doing different podcasts, and it built up, built up, built up, and it's now the lady I had the reading with, like, it arrived. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
That is quite a story. It feels like you did go through, I know most people have to go through a lot of dark stuff before they can start getting into the light, almost like Dark Night of the Soul situation. And it sounds like you kind of hit rock bottom, lost your marriage, went on sort of like a spiritual trek in Belize and found manifestation. And I want to go back to where you first started seeing entities. Can we talk a little bit about
yeah,
that?
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
when part of what you do is you're able to um heal people that maybe have had spiritual entities or attacks or things of that nature. I understand you're a starseed, which I've heard that term before. And from what I understand, starseeds are down here to help us try awaken, to enlighten us to who we are, to help humans awaken to what and who we are, our reality, things of that nature. Did anyone explain to you when you were younger or when you were seeing the dinosaurs or whatever entities, like what was happening for you? Like what how did you maneuver life when you were seeing things that nobody else saw?
I think it was a lonely journey, and I see that with a lot of Starseed people. It's a lonely journey
Yeah.
because you can't be truthful. You have to filter what comes out of your mouth, because if you keep telling people you see entities, you see this, you see that, of course they're going to a psychiatrist. Now, I work with a ton of psychiatrists, psychologists, and psychotherapists. They're all struggling at the moment because of the level of mental health, on this planet, not just in this country. A lot of people on antidepressants and things.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, what I can do is remote view them, see what entity is attached, and then remove it. Like, for example, let's have a look at them. Because I love Jesus' teachings. I'm not a Christian, but I love Jesus' teachings. I think they're amazing because it's no judgment. He talked
Yeah.
about attachments. And what's interesting is people often say to me, well, isn't it a violation that an entity attaches to you? And the
Mhm.
answer is it's not, because, before you come down here, they show you a video of the planet like, oh, well, this can happen, that can happen, something else can happen. So if you know about it, and of course, when you come through the veil, now it's not so much, people are getting a lot of past lives, but for the last 80 years, the veil's so thin that when the soul comes through, it's not blocking all the past life stuff out. Before that, it was blocked out. And so you had to, learn how to manage these entities, learn what they are from downloads. But it's not a violation, it's an education. Now, for
Mm.
example, if Greys come down and they, put you on a tractor beam, they take you up on a ship, they steal your eggs or sperm or whatever they steal, and then they put you back, is that a violation? Absolutely. And I chaired actually one of the meetings in 2017 with the Galactic Federation, Glebe being chair it, myself and two other ones. And it was agreed by a lot. There was about 10,000 different entities there, and they agreed to take them off the planet because it's a violation. So now you don't see grey so much down here at all.
This is so fascinating. So let's talk a little bit about entities and aliens. What is the difference between an alien species, or when you talk about an entity, is this a being that maybe never was in human form but live in another dimension? Or what, when you, is that word interchangeable, and entity and alien? And also, what is the Galactic Federation? How did you find out about it? Those are my two questions right now.
Well, yeah, the entity side, like you say, alien or entity, I see it as kind of the same thing. I mean, what's an
Okay.
alien being? It's a being that we don't understand. So
Okay.
let's have a look at the good guy. Well, let's have a look at the negative ones first, and let's talk about the good guys if you've got time. So,
Yeah.
so the negative entities, what have we got? The normal ones that attach to people are called Anunnaki. They're a reptilian thing, look a bit like a velociraptor, very tall, 10 foot, 10'6" tall. Now here, they can actually shift physically here. They're shapeshifters, but most of the time they're just attached to people. So it's like having a spirit attached to you. What do? Well, it sits in the abdomen, so abdomen gets bloaty, crashes the vibration of the liver, so you get brain fog, you can't think straight because it's not processing the toxins in your body. Affects your kidneys and adrenals, so of course you're exhausted because you've got adrenal fatigue. Um, Hangs on the shoulders and neck, so your shoulders and neck, or why is my neck always tight? Oh, that'd be the entity. And it also taps in the lower back with near the L4, L5 disc. So over a period of time, it damages the disc. Although they're energetic, they still damage this. That's why people get lower back issues when they're depressed, because they've got an attachment. It can also be because of emotion, of course, because your muscles can, you know, uh, tighten up and pull your hips out. And so you disc bulge. And it sends you negative thoughts. Like, if you go out to work, you get these thoughts like, God, the boss hates you. Useless, you're going to get fired, no one likes you. Everywhere you go, look, everyone's looking at you. Why are you here? You're no good. And you just keep getting these thoughts. But the interesting thing, these thoughts are a you thought. If you actually listen to them really carefully, it's you are, not I. It's not your thought. So it's important to identify that.
It's that's interesting because so many of us have negative thoughts about ourselves in our minds. I mean, there's tons of people with low self-worth, low self-confidence, that beat themselves up, that say negative things about themselves, that treat themselves like unworthy. Are you saying that the majority of those people have an entity, or
I
are
would
you
say
saying
almost
go ahead.
100% of them. Yeah, 99.9%.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh
because
my
I do about 2,000 healings a week. We do general group, we do specialized group, and we do one-to-ones every week. And I've actually cut the work back a bit because something happened last year, which I'll explain in a minute. Really interesting. Well, it was crazy, but anyway, I'll go through that. So, every new person who comes in, they've always got an attachment. When you go move it, they go, "Oh my God, I feel so much better." Why should a loving, take for example, the extreme serial killer, Ted Bundy, for example. I wanted to know why he chop up women in the way he did and do horrible things, because that's not human. That no human, I don't think, could ever do that. I mean, I could never kill anything. I can't go
Yeah,
hunting, even
me neither.
fishing. I actually just can't do it. It's not because I'm a wuss. It's because I just don't have it in me.
Yeah.
So, so why should a human being do that? So I watched the documentary. Right at the end, there's a reporter and sat in his cell, before he's executed. And he said, third party, how would somebody do da da da, and explain what he did? Oh, yeah, well, they would do this and do, explain the whole thing. Then he said, how would you do it? And his eyes went absolutely black. He got really angry. So the entity took over. So, you know, it begs the question, like, where does that leave the legal side? Because was it him or not? The answer is probably not. But I don't know. You have to park it there because I don't know what I'd do with people like that.
Well, I mean, number 1, nobody would accept that as a, reason. I mean, mainstream is not currently buying into the prospect that anybody has capable of getting an entity, let alone if entities even exist within our world. I went into my own spiritual awakening the last 5 years, and when you start getting into like energy vibration and manifestation, and I've done a few plant medicine journeys, you really start understanding that there's so much more going on than we really think about or that we're willing to accept, and you can't help but start dancing in the direction of aliens, of entities, of, we're in what it seems to be a multi-dimensional reality where depending on where you're vibrating, you can exist in parallel places. But for people out there that this is their first podcast about aliens and what they do and entities and the attachment, let's talk a little bit about what you do for people that come to you. What is your modality of healing them? Are you an intuitive? Can you look at somebody and say you have an entity attached to you, and how
Yeah,
do
I
you
mean, you could look
heal?
at somebody. I can see, I can remote view, see if there's an entity. I also look for pathogens. I mean, pathogens are manufactured diseases like Epstein-Barr, like herpes simplex, cerebellar zoster, which is what's it called, chickenpox.
Mm.
Uh, there's a pandemic now, and I don't like the word pandemic, but what's happening is there's a lot of people with shingles because it's been shed, by people who've been vaccinated. So that's pretty high. Then stealth pathogens like Borrelia Lyme, HIV/AIDS, Agent Orange, they've been manufactured over the last 50 years. They're all manufactured diseases. They're helical bacterial structures, so, and then you got Morgellons, which is also in this jab, which is, nanobots. And the problem with all this stuff, it blocks the meridian. So if you get sick, especially with Lyme disease, for example, Borrelia, gets in the cells, it blocks your energy flow. And so it's very difficult. You get brain fog, you get co-infection like Epstein-Barr, Babesia, Bartonella, all these things. People get really sick with these manufactured diseases. But, if you look at the entity side, Let's have a quick. I'll just run through the entity. So you got Anunnaki.
Yeah.
They sit.
Yes.
Draconians sit the same place. They sit in the abdomen, hang on the shoulders, tap in the lower back. Draconians are very dark. If you get one of those attached to you, you're going to feel really bad real quick. Then you've got archons. Now archons are interesting because they float through the second, third, and fourth dimension. They have no body. Oh, how does that connect to the COVID bioweapon? The answer is that the CRISPR technology damages your DNA. DNA, RNA, and immune system is all connected. Therefore, you've got no immune response. Your DNA is damaged, which means the light body in the DNA, which holds the soul and the energy, is damaged. Therefore, your soul lifts out of the body because it's not compatible with this body. And so what happens? Oh, in come archons and take over. That's why a lot of jab people tend to be checked out but aggressive. They become a different person. Very interesting. So, and then there's Luciferians. Now, these things are snarly as anything. I think these are the ones Jesus was talking about, demonic entities, because what they do is when you remove them, they contort the body, or they speak through your voice box in a cackly, nasty, raspy voice. you know. I was at Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles, and this lady had 57 Lucifers, the most I've ever seen in her body. She goes, I need to go, okay, let's put you down here. We both viewed them. Oh, crap, we've got 57. So I took the first one out, got rid of that. Next one, I've got rid of that. And people were freaking out. Oh, my God, what's happened to that? What's she doing to the woman? I'm removing the entities, So, and when we got to the last one, she just relaxed. Oh, wow, so amazing.
Oh my
That
God.
scared the pants off people. Everyone was talking about it. In fact, Donna, our producer, our PR person, she said everyone was talking about that. I remember that. So,
I mean, tell us, one of your most profound stories of healing somebody from a UFO abduction or an entity healing. Like, that sounds like pretty major. I don't know if you could top that one. 57 seems like amazing, but
well,
I
I had
can't
one
even
lady.
imagine.
Well, what happens with the Greys? I mean, they're gone now, but they used to mainly pick on ladies, but obviously they needed sperm. But what they would do is actually impregnate the ladies. And I had so many women go, God, I was like pregnant, and then suddenly I wasn't, and I tested myself and it positive, and then suddenly I wasn't. What's that about? And I said, you got abducted. They impregnate you. They grow the fetus to a certain level. Why do they do that? Because they want a human. What people don't realize, there's probably 64.5% of this population is what they call non-player characters. They have no proper soul. They're basically AI. Why is that? Because they've been growing them in pods. I always teach my clients, look, if you want a proper human being, you need to fertilize an egg in a lady's womb. You don't need a plastic thing. But I always tell them, look, beforehand, it's candlelit dinner. Then fertilize the egg. Then, but yeah, they've been after, because they want to get their species back to empathy and love and everything else, because they've destroyed their reticular planet, which is in Pallades, so very interesting.
It is. Like I said, I've been dabbling in this, and you can't help but get into the alien species eventually when you start moving in this direction. It's just a theme that comes up in New Age and spirituality in general, and I am all in. But it's really hard to wrap your head around for sure. I do want to tell you one story. I've only told a couple of people this in my entire life, but I have my own alien story, and I want to know your feedback on it of what you think it is. So here it is. About 7 years ago, I'm outside. I'm in the woods. We had built a fire. We're kind of camping, and I was on my iPhone, and I had been holding it up. You know those apps where you can look at the stars and and
Yeah, yeah,
and, and it'll
yeah,
show. So I had one of those apps, and I was looking at the stars, and it had music, and I noticed that I had kind of gone into a little bit of like when you go into very trancy kind of
yeah,
mode. That's kinda I was in. It was, like, really trancy, and I noticed as I was spanning my iPhone to the one side that a very big, ugly head like this of what looked like to be a snake person. He was covered in like a snake skin. He almost looked like, do you know what like a lizard, like a Nile, a monitor lizard is, like they're in Africa, like almost like the head of a monitor lizard, like. And I looked over there and it scared me, so I directed my iPhone like back the other way and I was like, "Oh, I'm just not going to look in that direction anymore." So I was looking over in another direction. I span back over there. I'm thinking cuz certainly it's gone by now. It's not gone. It's not looking at me like, but it's not gone. During this time, I started getting downloads. I started seeing things like, um I was told that black holes are actually portals to another universe. They made
Yeah,
that
yeah,
known to me.
portals, or you can transport through them. I mean, a black hole is puncturing because it's puncturing, like a whole portal, of time space. There is no time space. So when you go through it, you're immediately the other side of the universe or in a different dimension, whatever. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's true. So that information was given me. I was shown how everything is connected, and it was like a ball, and then like a something, and then another ball, and then something. I don't know what that was, but in my mind, you know how you have knowings. My knowing of the understanding is, and this is how it's all connected. And then the other thing that was shown to me during this evening that I've only told 2 people in my life was that there was that entity and another entity, and they were directing negative energy towards the planet. And when I looked, there was this fog of like cosmo brown stuff jetting into the earth. And my understanding was that they were putting negative energy into the planet. And when I
Yeah.
looked up again and the reptile guy was still there and I panned over and I kid you not, this image popped through the cosmos, looked down at me. It was gray. It did have hair. It had big eyes and it looked down at me and I knew immediately that I was not supposed to be knowing or seeing any of this. I knew
Mhm.
immediately. The guy looked at me like, what it was like, "What are you looking at?" Or what are you seeing?" Like, almost like I was intruding in on something that I wasn't supposed to be seeing, and it immediately jerked myself out of this trance spot because he scared me to death. Because I knew I had not seen something I was supposed to see or whatever, and I literally that I stopped doing everything, and I went to bed that night, and I literally curled up still scared that I had seen something that I wasn't supposed to see. What do you think about that, doctor? I've only told like 2 people of that story in my entire life, but it has lived with me forever that there was some sort of reptilian species in the air and then some sort of gray thing and they were pumping negative energy into the earth and I wasn't supposed to know about it. That's the gist.
Absolutely. And I think the downloads are coming from from your off-planet family, your soul family, which
Oh.
and so they
I
were giving
mean,
you downloads to show you stuff, like portals and different things. So yeah, and you probably got a
it's
lot more since, I would imagine. It's interesting about downloads though, because you get this information, you just know it. Where did I get this from?
it,
Oh, you got a
it's
download last night.
it is weird. It was like it was my thoughts, but they were in my head telling me the nature of reality and how things were connected. So I'm totally in on these. There's just no way on the planet that we are the only people, the only species, the only humanoids out there. We are definitely surrounded by all different types of life forms and multidimensionals. Like it just really is. And it's so great to talk to somebody that doesn't have any fear of speaking the truth. Like if I were to say have this conversation amongst maybe some of my more mainstream friends, they really start questioning if you really are sane, because
Oh yeah,
people
yeah.
are so far removed from the possibilities of what are the nature of reality is. What I'm curious to ask you, what do you feel the nature of our reality is? What do you feel like we're doing down here? What do you feel like is the end game for humans as far as why were we created and what are we doing?
Well, I think we're created to create a classroom to an extreme classroom. I mean, this place is nuts, you know. I keep telling my clients it's not. I love it, but it's nuts. And I keep telling them, look, I mean, I love it down here, but I haven't always loved it. You know, I detested it when I was in corporate world. I detested it. But it depends what type of person you are. If you're a starseed person, you have come down here, you've volunteered, and you've come down because the Keys of Enoch states you can't, you know, there's no interference. There's about 70 or 80, you know, Keys of Enoch, but one of the biggest ones is even the off-planet beings cannot interfere with free will down here. So how do you get over that rule? Well, what you do is you see starseed people down here who are semi-human, and that gives the ability for us to call from the ethers help down here. I mean, you know, you have to get out of the matrix. One of the biggest things is getting out of this matrix. Don't be a
Yes.
slave, you know. I mean, taxes are illegal. The problem is you have to do some of these things because if you don't, you'll end up in jail. I mean, if I was put in
Yes.
jail, I'm no use to anybody then. So it's
Yeah.
important to, you know, be on the cusp without, you know, obey by the laws down here, even if you don't agree with them. Just do it because it's okay, you know. But one of the biggest things that I learned is when I went bankrupt, I remember being in the south of England. I was bawling my eyes out. And then I realized once I connected to my starseed family, the Melchizedek beings, I realized they're there 24/7 for you. They're always there. And that was really important to me. I think it's really difficult. If you feel you're a starseed, what makes someone a starseed? Well, you've got empathy. You take things really personally, like you're super personal. You don't behave like normal human beings. And the problem is starseed people tend to shame themselves. I don't fit in. I don't understand it. Well, you know, when you realize you'll never fit in, then what you do is then you seek, you know, people, like-minded people to be with. I remember going out with a Southern Baptist couple, you know, and we having dinner and they said, well, what do you do for a living? Usual. Oh, no. Um, well, healing. Is it in the name of the Lord? Kind of. And I thought, oh, forget it. Let's just tell how it works. Because I use portal systems. I use portals around people, 8 portals, bond it into a Merkabah field. A Merkabah field is, you know, 8-pointed, you know, kind of solid star. And then the Melchizedek beings can come through and do work, you know. So really, I'm the conductor of the orchestra. And I get really disappointed when people say, well, you know, it's all God, it's nothing to do with me. Oh, it is something to do with you because without you, this healing would not work because the keys of Enoch. So you're here as a conductor, you know. So what I always say is I participate in the healing. You know, I don't actually do the healing, but I participate in it. And I direct the beings to parts of the body that I can see because the universe is very specific. You can't just say, well, go and heal somebody. Heal what? You know, what, the emotion that they've got or the liver's got fatty tissue on it? What about the intestine? What about the pancreas? It's not producing the enzymes or it's not producing insulin? Or what about, you know, heavy metals in the pathways where it's damaged the brain? What about the thyroid? You know, if you get pathogens of the thyroid, immune attacks, it's called Hashimoto's, you know. And all these things, muscular dystrophy, what's that caused by? Lyme disease. How does it happen? Why does your immune system break down your muscles, connective tissue, ligaments, and tendons? The answer is there's something in there that it doesn't like, and that's manufactured diseases. So what these co-infections get in there, the body starts breaking it down, you know, but you can't heal these things if you don't understand it. And I think that was the biggest thing I learned because I spent 4 years in meditation, understanding cause, effect. You know, what about cancer? Why do people get cancer? Well, you know, there's pathogens in a lot of people's bodies. You know, if you have emotion about, say, you know, not being able to breastfeed, you might get cancer in your breast. What about emotion sexually? Someone raped you or something happened, you might get cancer in the womb or different places. Because where there's low vibration, pathogens mutate the cells, turn into tumors. And so, you know, that's where cancer comes from. Simple to get rid of. The tumor's just saying, hey, body's off balance, better pay attention to me or I will pay attention to you. But it's not a death wish, you know. People think cancer's a death wish.
Once somebody goes through a healing with you, do you normally heal emotional stuff? Is it cancer? Is it viruses? Have you have
Oh, I look at the lot. Yeah. I mean, you've got to look at everything. We have a quick method. It's interesting actually, because the psychotherapist, psychologists, psychiatrists are using this, you know, we've got a meditation out there that releases 21, you know, emotions, each time you play it. But what I do is I normally start off with 81. Now, if you go to think about this, you go to a psychiatrist, you sit there, or psychologist, counselor, whatever, and they'll poke at a layer, you ball your eyes, oh my God, da da da. And then 15 minutes later, okay, let's poke something else. So they poke you again, and you release emotion. How many how many layers can you get through in an hour? Probably maybe 4 or 6. Now, I'm not criticizing, but I wanted to find a much quicker way of releasing emotion. So how are we doing that? Well, the Melchizedek beings come through. You've probably got, I would say, probably 130,000 layers around your heart. Way too much for a human being of emotion. From this lifetime, probably some past life as well. So what they do is they go within those layers and they look for your biggest emotion affecting you right now, and they actually pull it out, that energetic layer. And if you breathe it out, it comes through your mouth, and then the next layer, and the next layer. So 81 layers is a lot, but you don't feel all the emotion of it because the main energy is gone. You feel like a residual of that energy. So 2 hours the next day, if you do 81 releases, you can end up bawling your eyes out maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Can get a purge of diarrhea because, some people purge through the intestines. I do, sometimes you go on the toilet, oh my God,
Yeah.
that feels better,
Yeah.
and it's not sickness, it's just a purge. You can get yawning, coughing, burping, sneezing, or crazy dreams, so, yeah. So it's a fast way.
Do you do all of your healings remotely, or do you do in-person healings, or is it a combination, or what how do you work normally?
Normally, unless I really know the person, I normally do it, for my safety and theirs remotely.
Remotely.
Unless I know people. Well, I don't do it remotely. I do it online. Like, we can do it over Zoom. Normally, I
Mhm.
use Skype, or I do it on the phone. And because you're over there, I can still remote you, and see what's going on. So, and then from that, get a protocol where we can get rid of it. But
Yeah.
our new protocol's amazing. It's we're on group 60 now. We've been doing it for 4 years.
What is this thing called
I'm
the
not telling you.
protocol?
No, just
Well, I mean, like, the basics, you don't have to give me the secrets,
no,
but,
no,
like,
no.
what is this?
No, this is really important. Now, this jab, COVID vaccine, it's a bioweapon, so we all know that. I've been working with this stuff for 14 years. So you've got Morgellons in it, you've got HIV in it, you've got Borrelia Lyme disease in it, you've got hydrogel, you've got HIV microinserts, you've got, computer arrays inside these 10 to the minus 9 small bots. You've also got glycoethylene, what else? CRISPR technology, which splices the genetics. So, for that, so what it does is so if you look at Borrelia, Lyme, HIV/AIDS, Agent Orange, they're stealth pathogens. They just replicate, and you just get sicker and sicker because you're immune. They keep morphing, and what happens? It's like having two fighter jets. The Borrelia's at the front, and it keeps changing direction, and so the one at the back is your immune system trying to find it. It changes direction, trying to find. Eventually, your immune system will crash and burn. In come cancers, and you finish. So it's the problem is it's in the cells. The nanotechnology grows through the skin. So if you think about it, it's part of your body. It's not a heavy metal per se. It becomes part of your tissue because the stuff bound to it, like nylon 3633, you got silicates, you got plant materials. It grows through your body, and people say, "Hang on, nylon. This shirt would be, if it was nylon, it would be nylon 9." But this is nylon 3633. That's why they're finding squid in people's arteries because it's a different component. How do you make nylon grow? What they do is they bind it to graphene, which is carbon, in a certain way, so it actually replicates. So all this stuff grows through your body. People think, "Oh, well, took it, it'll go eventually." It won't. It's actually getting worse. So, but
Why are they manufacturing diseases on us? Why are they just trying to keep us sick? Are they just trying to keep us in a state of lack and fear and fighting? And what is why are we manufacturing diseases and giving them to the population at large?
well,
Is
it's
that the
just the deep
government?
state.
Ah,
Well, it's the deep state people. Is it the government? Well, they were in power. Hopefully, they're not now. I mean, it's people like Gates. He's always talking about depopulation. Too many people on the planet. Well, there's not. There's abundance for all. But they want to take over the planet. They want 15-minute cities. You go in a 15-minute city because you're not worthy, and we'll take the rest of the land and live abundantly. That's what they want to do. So there's a battle for the planet. It's really interesting.
it is interesting, and I do believe that we are. kind of in the middle of a great awakening on the planet. I think that there is this like moment that is starting to build where people are starting to awaken to spirituality and awaken to our multidimensional nature of our reality and awaken to what and who we are. I think we're going to see all of our institutions break, and we're going to see all of the various um the media, the healthcare system, the government, like all of these institutions I feel are just going to go through massive changes or break it altogether. But I do think something great is going to come from it.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think a lot of things are going to happen, and it's
Yeah.
coming. But it's interesting. Going back to that protocol, what it does is we split your timeline in two. So it's quantum. Splitting the timeline, grab you, put you on a path of divine alignment, complete wellness, where all the stuff is out of the body, and all the stuff like stealth pathogens, bacterial, fungal, mold, parasites, candida, heavy metals, and all that stuff, and Morgellons particles, is separated out of the body and locked on a timeline sun. So as time goes on, it separates out the tissue. You can't just rip it out, because if you ripped it out, you bleed out. So they separate at the rate that your body can, handle it. Once you've got so far and your vibration's high enough, it doesn't mean all the stuff's out of your body. We then invoke a DNA change. What's that? They go in the cell where life first began, which is in the sacral point. They repair all the chromosomes, connect all the helices together, and reset the DNA of that cell back to the blueprint of the Akashic records, the cells around it. Now, here's the interesting thing. I can prove it works, because in 2009, I didn't need the separation, but I wanted a DNA reset. I wanted to reset my DNA. So before that, my blood was O negative, because I used to give blood to the blood transfusion service in England. And then after that, I never thought. So last year, I ended up in quite a serious mess, really. I was talking about the Vatican on podcasts, and they hit my heart valve, the two cusps. Well, there's three cusps of the valve. They hit it with a low frequency energy weapon, and what happens is they melt together. So I got sick really quick, to the point where I could hardly walk, and I said to Mother Mary, who's in charge of the because that being, I said, can we heal this quick enough? She said, no, you need an operation. Oh, crap. So I went to the surgeon, and anyway, long story short, my heart's very big. It's the size of a volleyball. They were like standard. And the heart valve is bigger than the ones they have available. So they're trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with this? So they reduce the hole, put the biggest heart valve they've got, an open heart surgery, which is, if you want to prove there's part of the skull. But
Yeah.
that was last October. And anyway, in the hospital, they said, you're bleeding out, because my blood's very thin. So they said, we need to give you 2-3 pints of blood. So we're going to check your blood. Oh, it's O negative. I said, oh, well, we need to check it ourselves. Okay. They came back and said, no, it's not. It's A negative. So my whole blood type's changed.
Oh
So
my
it's,
God. That's
isn't that
nuts.
interesting?
Like, I've been struggling with my health, especially when it says it detoxes like heavy metals out of your body and everything, like candida. I've had all of like, not all of them, but like I've had a lot of these issues that I've been struggling with forever. I'm really interested in what you do, Christopher. Like, I think it's
Well,
fascinating.
the thing is, though, if you think about it, you can tweak things and whatever, but unless you reset your DNA and repair the whole thing, I'm talking about every cell in your body. That's why it takes about 15 weeks, because when you kick it off, it then goes to the cells outside. They do the cells outside. And as it starts manifesting through your body, it changes your whole being, which means that when you've done the protocol, your God connection, your consciousness is absolutely clear. It's more profound. You can talk to your off-planet beings. There's a lot of people who get manipulated. I've seen, probably, I would say, I don't think I'm being unfair when I say 97% of people who do readings are manipulated. Why is that? Because when they're talking, they never clear the channel. If you're ever doing a reading with somebody, the first thing you should ever say to your guides or off-planet beings, whoever you're talking to, is, are you with God? If they don't answer, they're not. And what will happen if it's a reptilian, say I was doing a reading for you and I was reading for a reptilian, they say, oh yeah, Christy, you're doing amazing. You can do a podcast, you do this, you do that, But the biggest thing is you should go to France and you're going to buy a house with a pink roof, green doors and da-da-da, and they'll tell you one massive lie to send you off the path. And of course, because you've had two truths, you think, oh, well, it must be right, so you'll go to France, you'll find that house because some crazy person has painted them that colour and
Yeah.
had bought the house, you were right, so you've just been manipulated. It's very important, but the other thing about it is this, you've got infinite timelines in the future. Like, for example, say, say, you might want to become a hairdresser or you might rob a bank and go to jail. It's up to you. There's infinite timelines. I could go
Yeah.
back to aeronautics. Do I want it? No. I'm on my divine timeline, which is my divine gift. And I encourage everyone to find what their divine gift is because it's something that you don't really have to try. It's just part of you. And you get downloads. You don't have to be taught. It's downloaded.
Yeah.
And
Eh,
it
yeah.
gives you a reason to wake up in the morning, and it gives you that burning, like, passion within you,
Yeah.
so it's interesting.
I totally agree with you. I've kind of been trying to find my own path, my own authentic version of myself, my soul purpose, if you will. I started doing the podcast and it was like the universe just was supporting me in every way I can. And I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing now. I don't know. We'll see. My life's
Well,
not over, but
don't forget your beings off planet, your starseed family, your soul family, they can actually get involved with, for example, I've had so many people say, well, I was wondering what to do about my illness, and then suddenly your browser, I wasn't even touching the computer, and it just came up, and I've had that so many times. And they said, that's a sign from God. Well, it is because I didn't do it. But we always ask the accused that beings every week, can you go out there and allow the information that we're doing, to get to people who need it, to allow them the grace of free will. That's the biggest thing for me. You get it. Oh no, I'm not doing that. Okay, well, we tried, but
I mean, maybe you popped into my world because you're supposed to heal me, you know? You know?
bless your heart.
Speaking of healings, I want to get into the global enlightenment project and the healing sessions that you do and what your mission is. So I know you're the founder of this project. Can we talk a little bit about what it is and what the mission is?
Yeah, sure. Well, the ministry, it's called Christopher Macklin Ministries. I just registered it as a 501c3. The Global Enlightenment Project is a project of the ministry, and it's registered, in Missouri and everything else, part of the 501c3. So why did I do it? Well, the whole point is I want to do healings to help people get back to their guru self. I hear so many people, yeah, I'm working with Guru Vedanta, well, who cares, First of all, the name Guru, I mean, if I call myself Guru Chris, I think you just fall about laughing when people tell get rid of the names. We don't need them, just be you, but the whole point about this is I just wanted to help people get back to that sovereign, to be able to take their power back, get out of the matrix, have the faith. One thing that I learned, with this journey is that I got to a point where I call it a very complex instrument that couldn't give a shitometer, and everyone's
Yeah.
got one. And when that explodes, it's not that I couldn't give a shit about people, but I couldn't care less. What happens outside with politics, religion, who cares? It's not your deal. Let them all in fight, get on with it. Don't judge them. I never judge them. Just focus on the people around you. And the other thing I think is really important is that, starseeds are very lonely. They have very few friends because everyone thinks you're absolutely nuts. I mean, one day I found my dad, he goes, I want to tell you something. So what's that, Dad? You're absolutely barking mad. I said, you know what, Dad? That's the biggest compliment you've ever given me. Wow. And he goes, what? So, but it is a lonely journey. And I think, because you don't fit in, you don't want to be in a corporate job. You tend to isolate a lot. We've got, this is the house we built and, we moved in last June before I ended up in hospital with open heart surgery, but it's 40 acres. It's woods. It's on top of a hill. And, we're surrounded by 40 acres of our own woods and we've got cabins outside. It's just blissy, and I love it, and it gives me so much peace.
I I definitely can align with that. I have certainly left the 3D matrix, but I'm definitely with spirituality. I don't fear death anymore. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm an eternal being of light. I'm going to exist forever in some
Oh
form
yeah,
or
you
another.
never die, you just
You
shed the
never
meat
die.
suit.
Yeah,
But
you
don't
just
forget, at the end of the tunnel, when you die, you're there with God drinking champagne. I did it, I did this lifetime, woohoo, and I mean, I think death's a joy, but you got to be careful when you do pass. There is a manipulation. They do have the fake thing. There's like a postage stamp
I
thing
heard about that.
underneath the underneath what do you call it? What do you call that down where we're under? Firmament.
The oh,
The firmament. So underneath it, they've got this trap, and even a lot of spiritual people have fell for it. Oh, you should be going there. No, 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 no. You want to actually go outside this dome. And what they do is they send you parents who look like, they're fake, but they encourage you to go down the wrong place. So if you ever pass, just look around and just take your time and go with your intuition, go to the right place. But other than that, I mean, a lot of people like, I know the because that beings will actually come and get me and take me back to make sure, because I've got more work to do. But getting back to this global enlightenment project, so first of all, it's about enlightening people, which we're doing. We're helping as many as possible. It's a drop in the ocean compared with 8.7 billion people, but
when are we going to make contact? When do you think that is going to happen within our timeline?
I think it's going to be this year. I don't
You
exactly know
do?
when.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I've got a feeling it's going to be more and more this year. I mean, there's a lot more craft around, and they are alien
Mhm.
craft. They're good guys. They're keeping an eye on us. I know the Palladians have an emergency fleet where if people get into trouble, they actually go and pick them up and, help them and put them back down, like medically,
I'm
it's
looking
amazing.
forward to the time when we can start considering ourselves a part of a galactic family that I know we are, especially since post World War II. I think when we started getting the advances in our ability to put bombs up in the air, and I know there's this thing where they definitely don't want us exploding nuclear weapons in the outer stratosphere of our atmosphere and the universe. And I feel like humans are we're dancing towards this self implosion thing again where we're going to blow ourselves up, and I don't think they're going to let us blow ourselves up again. So I know that they are going to probably be interacting with us much more in the next few years because it seems like we're dancing in that direction. Things are getting very unsettled out there, it seems.
Oh, yeah.
um so I'm really looking forward to a time when we can start evolving and considering ourselves a part of something much much bigger than we do now, and maybe it will heal some of the divisions that exist now within humanity. We're so divided and we have so many things in common and we're so much more alike than we'll ever be different, and yet we let all of our surfacey bullshit level stuff keep us from recognizing how we're all divine sparks of light here having a experience in 3D plane and learning and growing our consciousness basically is what we're doing here,
Yeah,
you
that's it.
know?
And then you get, when people get enslaved by the matrix, they don't even see outside the matrix. They're just interested in the
Yeah.
paycheck. Let's go
Yep.
to the store. Let's watch this TV that like drivel
Yep.
on it, and go to bed. They get
We
stuck in that matrix, and it's sad.
we're not even asking any questions anymore about what we're doing here and what our purpose is. Everyone is just bought into this cycle of job, Netflix and chill, social media, football or whatever your game is, like there's no deeper foundational questions being asked, I feel like the in mainstream media anymore. It's a game of making money and being controlled by whatever device you're looking at. It's really a it's it's very dystopian when you start looking at
It
human
is.
behavior. It's
Oh
just
yeah. I mean, I'm not into that at all. I don't watch
we're
TV. I don't
lost.
watch TV at all.
Me neither. I mean, I
Um,
watch some, but I don't even watch half the stuff I work on, and I work in the business, and I don't even watch half the stuff I work on, and I work on pretty big stuff.
I enjoyed
Um,
Guardian of the Galaxy. That was quite interesting. That was
I
fun.
mean, they're all, they're kind of all one and the same now to me, but
Yeah, they are. But
it.
I hardly watch it. I don't read because the problem with dyslexia is it's frustrating because you read the words and then you miss some out. But that doesn't make sense. You have to read it again. And what you're doing is you're focusing on the words and not the actual content. So you can read a page and say, what the heck was that about? Because you've been concentrating so much. So I don't bother reading anymore.
Audiobooks. I do a lot of audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks, especially when I'm going to sleep at night. Like I'll listen to Dolores Cannon or whatever. Um, Dr. Christopher Macklin, I just have to say, you're on the forefront of knowledge that most people would not accept or acknowledge. And I think that putting your voice out there as much as possible to talk about all the information that you do have is so important. We are marching in this direction, and whether you have Lyme disease or an other autoimmune disease, I personally didn't even think until this discussion today that it could be a darker entity that was making me sick. Like it just never occurred to me. I know that you offer healings like twice a week through your global enlightenment project. What healings do you offer? How can people tap into your knowledge, learn more about what you do, get healing? How can they
Yeah, I
do
mean,
that?
twice a week we do a general, what I call a general group buy donation. And if you don't have any money, don't worry about it. Just come on. So we do that on Thursday, 5 p.m. Central Time, and Saturday, 11 a.m. Central Time. And I go through a lot of things. Do I do everything? No, but I go through a lot of things. I work on cancers, teeth. We work on sinuses. We work on the removing entities. We work on the adrenals, thyroid, pituitary to rebalance the endocrine system. Work on the intestines. Detox the body. Work on arthritis. I had a lady, it's really interesting. It came out of the blue because I was doing the healing one day, and she put this thing, quite a big note in the chat, and she said, "Look," she said, "I've had arthritis from the age of 13. Now I was 33." She said, "I was in a wheelchair. I've done this for 8 months," and she said, "It's gone. It's actually gone." And I go, "Well, I wish I'd." And the funny thing is, I didn't have time because it was just coming to the end. And I thought, oh, and then I thought I should have asked for a testimony, and so bless her up. But it
I
happens a
mean,
lot, 12-year-old heart failure. Worked on her for about 7 months. Her heart's back to normal. So she goes to the cardiologist about 8 months later. Said, "What have you been doing? It must be the work I've done because her heart's back to normal." And this lady said, "But I haven't seen you for 8 months." You know, so
I truly
goes on
believe
and on.
that the future of healing and humanity is going to be in energy, in entities, in vibration, in sound, in that arena. I think we're going to get much more accurate at doing healings like that than taking a pill, than any of the Western medicine that's out there that I
Oh
don't
yeah.
feel is there to heal people at all. It's just
No,
not.
it's just there to give you side effects. Often on the TV it
Yes.
says, "Take this for arthritis or something else," and then the disclaimer at the end, "Oh, if you die, go see your doctor," and if you get heart attack, go see your doctor, da, 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 And
Yeah.
I'm
I
kind of
mean,
thinking, that's scary.
it and there's so many people out there that are sick now. There's just millions of people suffering from not only mental unwellness, but and emotional problems, but
Well, let me
autoimmune
just tell you
diseases,
something which
all
is
kinds.
really interesting. I'm just going to pull
Yeah,
up this report. I don't think I can share it, but it's called, where is it there? I don't know how to share it with that, but
that's okay.
anyway, so it's the Deagle report. So DEAGEL.com. So if you go on there, they predict the population, have done for the last 15 years and been pretty accurate every year. So if you look at the United States, population in 2017, they said was 316.4 million. This year, they say it's going to be 99.5 million. So, wow, okay. Have a look at the UK. Where's the UK? UK, population 2017, 63.3 million. 2025, they're predicting 14.5 million. So
What?
that's interesting. Yep.
That is kind of insane.
But if you think about it, the combination, people who took the jab, there's a lot of people passing away because, the jab, it's going to get you eventually, but the other thing about it is, think about the NPCs who have no soul, maybe they'll switch the AI off to them and they're gone. So, you know, I can understand it, but that's why I think, we're getting heavily into robotics, because if you only have 99 million people in this country, there's not enough people to do the work. So you're going to need robots, going on farms, picking fruit, this, that, So I
Oh
think we're
yeah.
changing. Things are changing. Do I want a robot in my house? Probably not.
I
I think
mean,
it'd be creepy.
the rise of AI, in my opinion, we are basically going into unknown territory. And even though AI isn't going to be organic, it's not biological, I do think it's going to get sentient. I do think it's going to be some sort of life force with a consciousness, not organic, not biological, but regardless, it's going to be a being of sorts. It's with its own kind of thoughts and its own kind of like way of, it's dangerous. We're kind of creating another, not life in the organic sense, but in a consciousness kind of way, a life. Would you not agree with that? We're dancing in that
Oh,
direction.
yeah. Well, what's interesting is, not many people know under Mount Hayes is a super computer. What does that mean? It's 1,000 years ahead. It makes Google's qubit look like Mary Poppins. It's actually a cube of plasma, and it's got consciousness, which means that it can tap into computers. It doesn't have to be connected. It can tap in with its consciousness. And so that's the AI computer I think they're going to use for the blockchain and everything changing, the QFS and Jasara Nasara. I mean, that's all been signed. That's why I think this year, Jasara Nasara is a whole new way of working. And it means, we're getting rid of debt. You'll get a dividend per month, but you have to work if you're under the age of 55. Above that, you don't. And, I think it's going to level the playing field and give everyone, an abundance and be able to relax and do something else, like your gifts. And I think that's really important. Getting out of the slavery and getting rid of also IRS as well. That's going.
I
It's
agree.
happening.
I agree. I would love to see a planet where we were less slaves to some job that is meaningless and doesn't provide us any kind of um passion to do. I think we all are here. We all have things that we want to be doing, whether that's like maybe you write, maybe you sing, maybe you paint, maybe you like to garden, maybe you like to take care of animals. Whatever your passion is, whatever makes you get up in the morning and feel fulfilled. Most humans live their whole lives and never even experience that for one day, let alone be able to live their life fulfilling what makes them happy in their most true and authentic self. So I would love to live in that world. That world seems great to me,
Well,
you know?
a lot of these Starsea people, "Oh, I don't know why I'm here, what's the point, da, da, da." Well, there is a point, to me, just by spreading your light on this planet is huge. Staying alive is huge because with all the chemtrails, all the poisons in the water, all the poisons in, on your food, I'm surprised we're all still alive, but our bodies are amazing instruments, and very adaptive.
We're meant to heal, our bodies have an immune system and we're meant to go through things and then get stronger and be able to fight off whatever hit us better the next time. To vaccinate us from everything in the world that possibly affect us, I don't think is the answer to who we're supposed to be. It's just not.
When I was younger, like 3 days ago, but when I was younger, I mean, everyone had measles and different things, mumps, and that's okay, because then the immune,
Yep.
has got the antibodies and
Yep.
leave it. I
Yep.
always
Yep.
remember George Carlin, he said, I'll put it in a more polite way, but he said, "Oh, immune systems need exercise." He said, "We swam across the Hudson River in poo and wee, and we were fit, and he's right, so
He's right.
he,
I mean,
it's
the
amazing.
medical system is nuts. But you know what, Dr. Macklin, you have to come back to be on the show again because you have so many little topics that I could get into, whether it be more alien stuff, what 5G does to the body, spiritual attacks, more healing stuff. Like you're just the UFO stuff. Like there's just so many interesting things that I want to talk to you about in the future. So please know that you can always come back to this show and we can talk.
Yay.
I'll do a whole nother outline and we can talk about there's just it's
Everything.
fascinating to me. Everything. There isn't really anything that you're not doing that I'm not like, "Ooh, that's interesting. I'd love to talk about that." So, it was a real pleasure to have you on the show
Oh,
and like, you know, this is the first episode that I've really had that focused on healing from entities and aliens and things like that, and I wanna start doing more of this stuff. So, it's a great to have you on and to start having these kind of discussions. I think they're so fascinating for sure.
Oh, bless your heart. Well, thanks for having me. Bless you,
Thank
Christy.
thank you too. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave the Global Enlightenment Project website in the show notes. And with that, guys, we will see you next week on Fate from Atheism to Enlightenment. Journey well, everyone. Bye bye. And that is a wrap on this episode of Fate from Atheism to Enlightenment. What did you think of that one, gang? I mean, I thought that was a fascinating discussion. I want to have more conversations about, um, entities, aliens, the cosmos, the universe. I found Dr. Christopher Macklin absolutely fascinating, and I'm interested in doing some of his healing sessions. We talked after the show and we exchanged numbers, and I'm excited. Um I mean, it's so easy to um disregard our conversation, or um call us crazy, or say, okay, well, that's a bit too far. But I don't know. The more I listen to people and read books and listen to podcasts and go to expos and watch documentaries, all of them are kind of saying the same thing. I don't know, guys, but I absolutely, totally, wholeheartedly believe that life is stranger than we think it is, that there's all kinds of stuff happening within our ether, within our environment, that we can't see, touch, or feel. And I think that there are entities. In fact, I'm going to bring my friend Carla Bowen on this show. I've known her over a decade, and she has never ever told me the fact that she was possessed by a spirit. And we were on the phone the other day, and she's like, "Oh, I never told you. I was possessed before." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Oh yeah, I was possessed." And she went through this whole story, and she had two or three other ghost stories that were like next level. What? So I'm gonna have her on, and I'm gonna do a little, ghost storytelling time on the podcast because she has some fascinating stories. So, anyways, my point was, I truly, now that I've done plant medicine journeys, and I've been in this arena and talking to people, mediums and psychics and astrologers, it's just, our world is a little bit strange. It's much more strange than we think it is, more magical, more metaphysical, whatever. I I do think that people can get infected by negative energy. If you want to call them entities, sure. But it is all energy. It is. It's energy, and there's good energy and there's bad energy, and I think that bad energy can make you sick. I think I've said this on the show many times, like, you want to keep your energy clear and have it flowing. It can get stuck. Negative energy can cause disease, unwellness. You don't feel yourself. So, it's not too far of a stretch for me to make the leap that it's very possible that I've had negative energies on me. I think I've even said on the show in other episodes that I've thought that there was something in my place with me, and my curtains like came out of the wall one night at midnight after I'd been like messing around with my pendulum a little bit too much, and kind of not having good spiritual hygiene, making yourself keep clear, using a protective intentions around your body. I do that now. I put a white light around me and verbalize my protection, that I am protected by uh, a pyramid of white light, and it only allows my highest and greatest good, and it does not allow anything of negative influence or negative energy around me. So I do stuff like that now, because once you start paying attention to spirits or energy, and you acknowledge that it's a thing, and maybe you've even had some weird, spooky things like if they notice you noticing them, they're going to notice you more. Does that make that's what I it seems to feel. You have to tap into that and notice that. And once they notice that you notice that, then you could definitely start noticing it more, having more things happen. I'm not fearful of anything happens around me. I don't have any fear of it. Even when my curtains came off the wall, I was like, look, bitch, I've been through a lot and this shit is not going to scare me. So bring it on. Like I'm just, I've been through so much trauma. It's hard to scare me. That's like, I'm not scared. But I thought it was a fascinating discussion. And I would encourage you guys to get on his website. I will put it in the show notes. He does healings twice a week. Who knows? If you're having negative thoughts or negative feelings and you don't know why, or you're having brain fog or your energy is off, get a healing. Get a clearing. It could be as simple as that you have some sort of negative energy that is lobbed onto your bright light. So do it, gang. Do it. I will put it in the show notes. I think he's fascinating. People like that just absolutely intrigue me on all different levels. And if you can be open to it, if you can be open to the information, it can really expand your horizons, expand your mind. I'm always talking about like just dabble your little toe in there and see if it feels okay. It's hard information to accept. I know um it would be for me too, but I'm starting to feel like I don't know anything and I need to be open to everything within reason, of course. But on that note, guys, I'm hoping to continue to bring you interesting characters like Dr. Macklin. I'm hoping you're enjoying what I'm doing here on the show. I am trying to bring you new information, good information, inspiring information. And, I'm always trying to raise the consciousness of this planet. I will need your help to do it. And, I might be asking for like a tip or a 2.99 a month donation. Or I wrote a children's book back when COVID was a thing, and it is the most heartwarming, cute story of my dogs and how one of my dogs, Mr. Pickles, ended up having to get braces on his legs, and how Maggie came to the rescue and helped him get him back on his feet. And it's all about friendships and stick to itiveness. And I'm going to start promoting that, I think, at the end of my shows to get you to buy my book because it's a twofer thing. You get a very cute children's book that you could read to anyone. And it's unlike anything I've ever seen out there. Anyone who's ever read my book has said, "Oh my God, Busby, this book is like ridiculously cute." And I'm like, I know, right? It needs to be out there. So I'm going to start pushing my book. It's got a great message. And quite frankly, more people should read this book and it will help me financially. I need to monetize this. I love doing this, but I spend a lot of time reading, doing outlines, interviews, promoting, editing. Like I am a one man band out here with this podcast. And I'd love to get some support. I really would. So that is coming in the future, guys. I'm going to be ramping up my show, bringing you even more amazing things, and maybe asking for some donations on the back end or buy my book or something to support the show. It's a lot of time, energy, effort. I'd love to be able to keep doing it for as long as possible. So, on that note, gang, I will see you next week on Fate, from atheism to enlightenment. And welcome to your fate, everyone. I'll see you next week. Journey well. Bye.